malos. Tienes que elegir entre salvar a una persona o salvar a todos los mundos.
¡Puedo hacer las dos cosas!
¡Atención! ¡Detened a Spider-Man!
¿A mí?
¿A quién?
Well, hello guys, it's Gonzalo from Cartelera in Spain. First of all, how are you?
Great, nice to meet you.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys. My first question, I want to ask you because the first movie, The Spider-Verse, was such a game. It was a game changer. It was amazing. So, in this one, which was the challenge for you? How did you go over it?
I think the first film was so emotional and had such an incredible depth of character that supported the incredible visuals. I think the greatest challenge of this film was providing just as much great emotional depth and character, and even more, because we wanted to do more visually with this film, and it needed to do more visually. So I think what I think is probably the most incredible challenge of the film was getting that much more emotional depth into, and you know, what is essentially like this big epic journey film that you could easily get lost in.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you don't forget what made the first film special. You know, and it's really is. It's the character work. I mean, the first film did such a wonderful job of making the world fall in love with Miles Morales. And it was really key when you have all these new exciting things, not to lose sight of that. That at its heart, it's a film about this character and the friends and the family members that we were introduced to in the first film, and naturally evolving where they're going. Everything else that comes after that is just gravy.
I understand. I like it. And you said something about my second question, which is the visuals, because you have gone again beyond what you did in the first one. How did you work on all those styles? How did they came up to you? And again, how did you tell about them?
Look, I think the first film, as intimidating as it became, you know, when it started getting all its recognition, I think one thing it did for all of us as creatives was it gave us permission to push harder and try new things. So we were like kids in a candy store. You know, I think if you have the ability to sort of create visuals and look at points of inspiration that, you know, went through multiple graphic novel styles, multiple artist styles, and have that fuse and sort of, you know, work together with an emotional story. As a creator, as a director, what else can you ask for? I feel like we're at the pinnacle right now.
Yeah, and I mean, risk taking is encouraged. The one thing to understand is that a lot of this process, we were worried and afraid that things wouldn't work. And a lot of times when people get afraid and worried, they then steer into something safe.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was the opposite. You're worried and you're afraid that it's not going to work, but you have to plow forward and try anyway. So for me, at least, I remember it was always exciting the first time you see a little bit of viz dev, visual development, on something that you've only seen the art of and go, oh my God, it actually looks good in motion.
Right.
Okay, I think we're gonna be okay. Because for a lot of the conceptual period, we're asking the same questions that the audience is gonna ask. How is this gonna work? Right. And we don't immediately have an answer. But fortunately, we have an incredible crew of almost 1,000 people, folks at Sony Pictures Animation, Sony Pictures ImageWorks, who all, as opposed to shrinking from that challenge, I think really stepped into the challenge.
Okay, well, now let's talk about the spot, because in this time you are having a villain, which is not maybe one of the main Spider-Man villains, like, I don't know, Doc Ock or the Goblin, Kingpin, the first one. So how did you work on him, and how can he surprise audiences?
Oh, look, I'll say one thing that I think the spot has going for him that's inherent to him, that is woven into the story of the character, is that he's sort of not at the forefront of Spider-Man's rogues gallery. People underestimate what he can do. We had meetings early on. We had meeting with even our story artists where they pitched the idea of the spot, and it was for that very reason. Like, do you know that this character basically has unlimited power if you were really to tap into it? And that's something that can speak, but he's not recognized in the comics, you know, for having that's something that you can drill down into and pull a character out of.
Well, now I would like to ask you about something, because in the superhero genre nowadays, we are having the multiverse almost like a trend, which is not something that was happening back in the first movie. So what do you think this is happening right now?
Why are you asking why we think the multiverse trend is happening?
Yeah, right. Like nowadays, because we have everywhere.
Right. I mean, I always treated the Into the Spider-Verse as the first film that really thoughtfully kind of addressed it. I don't know. I think you'd have to ask the creators of a lot of these other, multiverse stories. For us, I mean, Spider-Man has a lore that encompasses lots of different types of characters, lots of different types of personalities, and for us at least, the multiverse is a wonderful opportunity to explore those characters and to kind of subversively examine the very world of comic books from which all the inspiration is drawn. And that's one of the things I love so much about the first film, was that it was actually totally self-aware of the world of comic books. And in this film, we wanted to kind of take that to a different level. But I mean, there can be negative, I think, applications of the multiverse as like a get-out-of-jail-free card, removing stakes completely from any stories, and those are some of the cones we wanted to avoid. We wanted to make it clear that like our story that we're telling has stakes. There are real stakes. There are real ramifications, and I think that's what helps make it compelling.
I think also what might be like a lot of the trend, as you call it, is a way to, it's been kind of grabbed onto as a way of like sort of expanding things. But I think what has been from the beginning, and even in the first film, and we've done even more in this film, it was really a way to show the journey. It was really a way to show the journey of this character, Miles Morales, that we love, and how could we just sort of express this idea. And that's what drove our intent, is like this idea that he's this 15-year-old kid at this stage of his life who's going through these changes with his parents, with himself, with his relationship to his friends. And how can like we use like these different dimensions to sort of express that emotional journey that you go through in adolescence when you're not quite a boy, you're not quite a man yet. And really, for us, it's more of an emotional journey. And I think that's what makes Spider-Verse so special and so strong. It isn't actually it's not an analytical journey through some kind of map.
Science.
It's not science.
It's more about the emotion.
It's the emotion that drives all the dimensions that we go to and that we visit. And I think that's what gives it weight and gives it power. And I think that was what was most important to us the whole time.
Yeah. And just to push back on the idea that like anyone did it first, in terms of narratively, the idea of the path not taken, you've seen Sliding Doors. How old is that movie? 20 years? Like, you know, there's in cinema, this is an idea that it's something that all humans think about. What if I made a choice that changed the course of my life? Right. And that's something, we're calling it multiverse, but the idea of different paths for a character is something that I think humans are naturally curious about when it comes to their own lives, and it's something that has been explored in cinema and literature for a long time. We just did a really cool version of it.
Voy a hacerlo a mi manera. Este día ya no puede ser más raro. Supongo que sí.
No hay escapatoria.
¡Lo siento!
Culpa mía, tíos. Sí que había escapatoria.